How's everyone doing? Today's project, this little Poulan push mower I got for free. I believe it has a starting issue. Might have a timing issue, but as you can see, it's not in the greatest of shape. It's got oil kind of all over the place. So hopefully it's not something major. It's got a pull rope that's kind of just tied together, a bunch of different ropes. But you'll see when I pull it over here, it kind of snaps back out of my hand, which is pretty much a surefire sign of maybe a flywheel key or some sort of timing issue. So let's dive into it and see if we can get this thing back out there cutting grass. Alright, so I'm just going to show you what symptoms are happening here. So, let's see if we got any fuel. A little bit. Check the oil. Not very much. Looks like it might be all over the deck. Okay, primer bulb works, but it's slow to return. It means it's just getting old. Spark plug's attached. We'll see what we can do with this thing. Alright, so we're not getting anything. Let's see what we got going on here. Underneath the air filter. Well, it's definitely not going to run with that thing clogged up like that. There's no air getting in at all. Just want to make sure there's fuel getting in. Yep. So I'm going to leave the air filter off and see what we get. Alright, so not even getting a puff out of it. Okay. Well, guess the next thing to check. See if we're getting spark. And spark tester. Alright. Well, let's see if we get any spark out of this thing. Alright, so there's definitely spark. So, spark. Fuel. The only other thing it can really be is compression. I also want to check the spark plug, because if you got spark coming through here over to here making a connection, that doesn't mean you're actually getting spark off the plug. See if I can yeah, I'm not seeing any spark out of the spark plug. Now if you can see that, it's pretty nasty. I always keep a bag of spare spark plugs, just mostly for testing purposes a lot of times. What I'm going to do is spray some fluid right in the cylinder here. So I know for sure it's getting fuel. Try this plug. What I'm doing is just grounding out the spark plug to the engine, and I'm looking right here at the end of it for spark. Alright, definitely spark out of this guy. So, just because your spark plug tester is telling you there's spark, guys, doesn't necessarily mean that the spark plug's any good. Technically that wasn't the right spark plug. That was a plug off of a Honda BPMR 6E, I think it is. Just going to check this Champion RJ19LM, which is the right spark plug for this motor. Alright, so definitely some spark there. Put this guy back in. So we got spark, we got fire. Sorry, we got spark, we got fuel. That should make fire. Put a little bit more. I just wonder if that's fuel in the tank and not 100% water too, because I've seen that before. Alright, you guys can see that. It's pulling it out of my hand. Yeah, she's snapping back right out of my hand. So it's definitely something going on with the timing. I suspect there's a broken flywheel key. Just going to turn it over and see. Doesn't look like the blade is bent. Alright, so we're going to have to dive a little deeper underneath the engine covering here. Get at the flywheel key. That's what I suspect might be wrong with this bad boy. Alright guys, to get this top cover off here, there's 3/8 bolts. What's that? Put that out of the way. Now on the top here, there is a 15/16 nut that has to come off. So I just like to use my impact with 15/16 socket. Spin that guy off. Take this whole cup off, starter cup. And there's the evidence I was looking for. Let me give you a closer look here. Alright. So let's see if it'll, there we go. Alright, so there's the evidence we were looking for. Here is the keyway on the crankshaft. Here is the keyway over here. About 1/8 of a turn out on the flywheel. And the piece of metal is actually sheared off. So the starting issue I was having when I was pulling out of my hands, that is pretty much guaranteed usually to be a busted flywheel key. Now, what we got to do here is to get this flywheel off. So there's a bunch of different ways to get it off. You could get a flywheel puller. Briggs & Stratton makes one. You could use a puller in here and a bolt in the center, and then just keep tightening them down, and that pulls that up. So another method you could use is an air impact with a chisel, air chisel on the end. When you do that on the center here and you put a crowbar underneath the flywheel and put upward pressure from the bottom, that will usually break this loose as well. And then the last way is, if you don't have any of those tools, the last way to do this is just take your nut, thread it back on the crankshaft until it's flush. And then I try to use the dead blow hammer first, just so I don't try to damage anything, and then again put upward pressure from the bottom using this big crowbar and just whack this thing a couple times, maybe even one time sometimes, and that might get it to come loose. So I'm putting upward pressure. Sometimes it's hard to get a nice spot where you got good metal on metal on your crowbar. And sometimes a dead blow is not enough. There we go. Okay. And you just take your nut off again, and the flywheel then comes off. The reason why it gets stuck on there because it's tapered. The inside of this flywheel is tapered, and you can see this is tapered as well on the crankshaft. So spin this around. Oh, it's already starting to fall out. Here's a piece. Sometimes these get stuck in there and you gotta pry them out with a hammer and a flathead screwdriver. There's another piece, and of course the rest of it is in the flywheel here. So like I said, I'm just gonna have to chisel this out with a hammer and a flathead screwdriver, find myself a new flywheel key, and then I'll be back. Alright guys, so I got a new flywheel key. That's what a Briggs & Stratton flywheel key looks like. I saved these off of all the old mowers I trash or I part out, and that's the old key in 2 pieces. Alright, so obviously somebody hit something with this. I did check the bottom side. Whenever you have a suspected cheered flywheel key, look at the bottom, because your blade might be bent all up as well. So when you're putting this back on, you just line it up, the 2 keyways, and then you're going to put your key down the center, and there we go. Now that's it. Now you can see that there, but she's all lined up again. Okay, so before I get too far further in this thing, I want to make sure that that was the only issue that we were having. So I'm going to go ahead and put this thing back together. Alright, so now it's all lined up. Next thing I do is put your starter cup back on. And your nut. Go ahead and switch that down. Okay. Let's put the finisher rod back on. There we go. 2 bolts back in. I'm going to take outside to get started here. So I test there. Also, oil I'm seeing everywhere. That's it. Yeah, these are on here. It's not pretty bad. I'm not very long. The other one, I don't have really oil on it. Very low. Alright, let's put the back on. Okay, so take it back, drag it in. Alright guys, I'm trying to get this thing, give her a couple pulls and see what we get. Hopefully we get lucky, and that's all it was. Alright guys, so this thing definitely needs some carb work. As you can hear, you see it was running, revving up and down. So there's definitely something going on there in the carburetor. So I'll have to clean that out. Will be my next task, and see where we get to from there. I do have a video on how to clean one of these Pulsa Prime carburetors. If you want, you can go ahead and click the link here in the top right corner, and that should take you to that video. I'll come back. The other thing I did notice as well is this spring actually is all bent out of shape, it looks like. Maybe it looks like they unbent one of the coils to make it a little bit longer, but that shouldn't be necessary. Probably needed a carb clean. So I'm gonna do that, and I'll try and get you back here when I got that next step done, and see how she runs after that. Alright guys, quick update. I got the carb off, cleaned it out, replaced the diaphragm and the gasket, put it back together. I also found an extra spring in my spare parts. Replace this guy, and so we're gonna give her a shot now, see how she runs now that I got her all put back together. Alright guys, so there you go. It's running good there. I was just kind of adjusting the RPM by increasing the tension on these springs by just pulling the levers right here and right here. Alright, that increases the RPM. But other than that guys, it's a good little machine. I'm going to clean it up. Finish off the rest of my tune-up, sharpen the blade, change the oil, of course replace this cord. Might do a separate video on that. But until next time guys, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the content, please go ahead and hit the subscribe button and the like button. Really helps me out on the channel. And till next time, take care.